session. Our spotlight session is all about decoding the future of HR trends, understanding millennials and Gen Z work. It's all about why HR guidance is so very important, why the employee experience continues to be of such high importance, how AI and human complement each other. All this and more thanks to our expert speakers lined up for all of you. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our first spotlight speaker. I present to you Ms. Sejal Mody, Head of Employee Experience, South Asia, Unilever.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Isha. So I'd like to start off with getting you all to think about the last time that you had a great customer experience. That's right, I said customer experience. I'm sure you thought of actually more than one great customer experience in that one split second that I just gave you, because I'm sure you've had many of these over the years, driven by either a great product or a delightful service. I think for the longest time, when a similar question was raised about employee experience, the answers often required some thought because it was harder to pinpoint the driver for that experience. However, as the personalization of customer experience took off with e-commerce and social media tools, I think we all began to expect a certain experience pre-COVID. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think this just got accentuated. People have experienced unprecedented levels of disruption in their homes and their communities, and of course, in their jobs. If there is a silver lining in all of this, it's that organizations and leaders are really beginning to rethink what employee experience will mean in a post-COVID world. And so today, what I want to do is to share with you my top 5 predictions for employee experience in the future. The first one, presence will not define performance. A greater emphasis on belonging in a hybrid working world will be the focus. That's my first one. What will this mean? HR leaders will need to develop programs to help remote workers feel as connected as the in-office workers. There will be a need to define clear ways of working and shared norms. Output will define performance. The fix will not lie in returning to pre-COVID working practices. Instead, there will be a heightened focus on how to enhance productivity, collaboration, culture, and innovation, as well as how to foster a greater sense of belonging to accommodate individual styles and personalities as well as team dynamics. Well-being initiatives will become an essential part of an organization's toolkit, not only for attracting and retaining talent, but also for demonstrating a commitment to employees' health and safety. And so this is going to be one very key element in the future of employee experience. The second one for me is one size won't fit all. And we will need to create a la carte policies for agile and diverse workforces. I think even in 2021, it will become increasingly clear that organizations cannot simply offer standard one size fits all offerings and policies for their entire workforces. Instead, organizations will begin to introduce a lot many more varied policies in their workplaces and processes to fit the individual needs of employees. The nature of talent and work is likely to become more agile, with new work models to expand the talent base. Diversity and equity will be dialed up, and policies, processes, and services will need to cater to this diversity even more than ever. Number 3, less will be more, and organizations will pare down collaboration tools. Integration will be the name of the game. To support collaboration, organizations will work to remove noise from employees' workdays. Rather than increasing the tools, processes, and systems that an individual will have to navigate through the day as they collaborate or even do their focused work, the focus will be on optimizing the employee technology experience by getting the most out of fewer systems and platforms. And that brings me to my fourth very key prediction. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see a very unlikely partnership. HR and IT, even more than ever, will need to partner up to focus on the employee technology experience, because we really need to create a level playing field for the in-office and remote worker. While progression toward digital employee experience was well underway, COVID-19 accelerated most organizations' plans to digitize their workplace to ensure employees were fully enabled with the tools they needed to stay productive. In 2021, the employee IT and technology experience will stake its claim as a critical part of the holistic employee experience. In response, IT and HR will work together to prioritize not only listening to and understanding employee technology needs, but also bridging the gap to overcome the technology experience challenges. And last, but definitely not the least, the case for space. Workplaces will need to be reimagined. Because while we have definitely seen a need to dial up significantly on workplace safety, there will be a heightened need to relook at office spaces and review real estate decisions based on hybrid working models. And these hybrid working models are definitely going to evolve as we go. No matter what I say today, what will be the future only remains to be seen, because it will all depend on employee preferences, mindsets, and how much they will actually change. There will be a need to activate services and facilities quite differently and redesign spaces for more collaboration and connects. We might even need to look at what it will mean in terms of making sure services are, even concierge services, as what I'm hearing is becoming a very big thing in the future of facility management, will become very important, because we want to be able to provide the remote worker with the services that probably the in-office worker already has. And this could be something that will evolve over time. I think as we reimagine these workplaces, sustainability will also be very big on the agenda. And so as I say, these are the 5 big trends or themes that you will see. I can tell you that even in Unilever, we are beginning to really rethink the employee experience. We've actually introduced a bot that we have developed in-house, which essentially is sitting on the Microsoft Teams collaboration software. We are building out Power Apps all on Microsoft Teams. And we are also starting to create more AI-based enablement through productivity hints with the help of Cortana in emails. This is something that we are seeing is going to be very important as we start bringing our people eventually back to the office. And I think as an organization, it's important for every organization to take the call and say, are we ready to change? Do we want to change? And how much do we want to change? And a lot of this will drive the decisions that employees will begin to experience when the organizations start redefining employee experience. Thank you so much. And I will hand it back to Isha now.
Trends that you just discussed with us, I'm sure each one of our audience member very much agrees with it. So once again, thank you so very much for joining us as our spotlight speaker.
Sure. Thank you so much, Isha. Appreciate it.
As we wish her a safe day ahead, here is introducing our next spotlight speaker. We have with us Mr. Abhay Kapoor, Group HR Head, Somany Impresa Group, Hindware Brands. Warm welcome to you, Mr. Kapoor.
Hi, good afternoon. So I think Sejal has set the tone, and so this year we all know has been a very unprecedented year and full of unprecedented disruptions, which has accelerated the pressure on many CHROs and the HR leaders in changing the way they used to think in running the organization. And there are many factors which have played a very pivotal role in terms of the changed work style in the organization, and of course the increased digitization, then global focus on the corporate citizenship and fast changing customer behaviors. These are the things which have driven the organization into altogether different tangents. Uh, when I talk about this topic like decoding the future of HR, uh, I see that there are at least 10 to 12 agenda items which have significantly made the change in the way the HR used to perform and the way HR need to take a shape in the coming future. And these trends are reshaping the HR function as a whole in the organization. And the today's focus has shifted, taping the skills anywhere, anytime. So the uh, virtual work environment has given the opportunity to widening the gaps, and HR will be required to quickly assess the critical skills which are required in demand, which are in demand, and when and where they are needed, and how to find those and uh, get them operated in the virtual work environment. The other thing which has significantly changed is the managing your people as a workforce of one. So now every individual is a workforce, and they may be operating from anywhere, uh, and in any time zone. And so the customized focus is required to treat each workforce as a one, and then with the customized HR and talent management solutions for each individual. Then the rise of extended workforce, like HR's mission is to mandate the maximizing the workforce strategic values, and from that point of view, it has become very important to uh, treat each workforce as a individual. Then the digitization has radically disrupted the HR. Then a range of technologies which are transforming now, wherein the people are carrying out the business. Then there's a lot of HR functioning is dependent on the digitization, level of digitization in HR, and there's a need to have a complete workflow and people process flows on the digitized platform as people are operating in the virtual work environment. Then reconfiguration of the global talent landscape. So HR need to transform to adapt to the more global world, and they need to match the talent teammates with the task of various locations, various geographies and demographies to support the mobile workforce across the geographies. Then there is a change in the way social media is driving the uh, the is driving the workforce in terms of social media. The knowledge workers are harnessing the way the social media they collaborate, and they radically disrupting the organizational structures and hierarchies and job titles, and the highly active workforce of today's uh, generation on the social media. They are democratizing, uh, they are demarking the geographies and virtually available at any point in time. Then talent management and the science of human behavior. So there are a lot of scientific insights and AI and analytics which is driving the HR with the science of human behavior, and the new tools to drive the workforce in the and the agile workforce in the today's environment. Then driving the HR as an agile organization. So as the organizations are evolving, economy is evolving, the trend of IT organizations is leading the global economy. Uh, the HR has to play a very critical role in enabling the companies to adapt to the changing business conditions, and also to remain agile at all point in time in terms of driving the organization. And they need to navigate the risk and privacy in a more complex world. There's a kind of risk management which is required in HR function to drive the uh, workforce in a virtual environment, and also maintaining the confidentiality of the data of the talent. Then HR expands to the reach to the deliver seamless employee experience. wherein HR need to evolve from a standalone function to one that spans disciplines and boundaries to deliver cross-functional and holistic employee experiences. So as rightly said in the previous session, like the way we treat the customer experience, employee experience is also very important in this change work environment. And they need to have a tool to gauge the employee experience on the real-time continuous basis, so that we should know that where the employees' feelings, how they are contributing, and how they are being treated, and what are their feelings, that what actions are required to be taken from the HR in this kind of environment. The other changes which are happening in today's environment is like tapping the skills in terms of extended workforce, and managing the workforce in a way that they need to be connected, and they need to be feel like they are connected to each other in a virtual work environment. The decisions which HR leaders are making today will critically define the future of any organization. So the HR is on the center of all the decision making in terms of driving the tomorrow's organization. There's a uh, uh, increased role of gig workers. The most of the young generation even now has started thinking of working as a freelancer rather than a permanent employees, and how to manage those gig workers, and how to take best out of this model to contribute to the business. Uh, there has been a shift in terms of the renewed growth with the talent on the top of the agenda, and many members of the C-suite now, including CEOs and CHROs, they have a tremendous uh, uh, opportunity to have a significant impact on the business in today's change scenario. And the focus is to build the leaders in the organization, those who are employee centric. So employee at the center of the affairs, and enabling the managers in terms of thinking on the way HR want to shape up the organization and drive the transformation. So I think these are a couple of pointers which I thought, which is driving the today's scenario in terms of future of HR in the organizations. So thanks for giving this opportunity to share my views.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Abhay Kapoor. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing your thoughts on this. Thank you so very much for joining us. And as our spotlight speaker, I'd now like to extend a warm welcome to Ms. Mukta, Nakra, Director, HR, Marks & Spencer Retail.
Thank you, Isha, and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and to have this opportunity to share my perspective around the future of HR trends. And having heard the previous two speakers, it's of course very similar and very aligned. So gives everyone, I think, including myself, a comfort that we're all thinking collectively for the benefit of employees and as HR fraternity. When you reflect back on last year, organizations and HR teams have had to respond exceptionally to the demands that came forth due to the pandemic, and especially at a time when employees needed maximum support given all the uncertainty that was there around the future. So the agenda moved from initially managing remote workforce, driving engagement, productivity, long working hours, the stress of managing multiple demands that employees were coping with, whether it was parenting, homeschooling, or just not having the optimum space to work effectively from home. HR teams have evolved continuously to support various evolving needs of people. And when you put things in perspective, this year is a year of reset after coping with the crisis. So I'm happy to share some of the thoughts that came to my mind when the topic of what are those key trends that are going to shape the HR strategy for this year. And I've kind of bucketized them under some of the aspects of the entire employee life cycle itself. When you think about the employee life cycle, various touch points with the employees will need to be reimagined and rethought. And here are some of my thoughts. I'll kick off with talent acquisition. And while there are many things that we need to think differently when it comes to attracting, hiring, and onboarding the best talent, organizations will have to relook maybe at the start and start with the employee brand itself or the employer brand itself, which will take center stage. Given the needs of employees and what they're expecting of their future employers has evolved very differently to what it was pre-COVID. The workforce itself is changing. The gig workforce is going to be a reality. It doesn't matter where you are based anymore, right? Location constraints are going away. So how do you create a proposition that helps you attract talent irrespective of location, their new expectations, and how do you kind of link and tie that with the business proposition is going to be an important aspect for this year. The second key aspect in the space of selection is actually the use of technology and AI-based tools and assessment. I think technology is something that has ramped up significantly since COVID hit us. But recruiters now have to embrace themselves to use technology-driven, advanced evaluation solutions to primarily understand personality traits. We're not even doing face-to-face interviews at the moment. And as the locational constraints go away, we will have to rely a lot more to understand personalities of people that we are onboarding. Specifically at an executive and mid-management level, we will have to focus on a combination of competencies, experience, personality, as I mentioned, behaviors, what's driving people, what are their motivational drivers, the cognitive reasoning, and more. Moving from acquisition to development and learning of people, companies will have to focus comprehensively on building soft skills. We know the outbreak of COVID has had consequences in terms of stress and anxiety levels across employees worldwide. Now, the shift and the importance of people managers in all of this to be able to demonstrate that emotional intelligence, to be able to ensure people understand how they need to work in a new environment is something that we'll need to kind of step up. According to an IBM report, I think there are 3 critical skills, in addition to the higher emotional intelligence and empathy, that is going to be needed is the ability to manage time and prioritize. We know time has become blurred, responsibilities have stretched. So how do we help people cope with that? The willingness to be flexible, agile, and adaptable to change. And the ability to work effectively from a remote team environment continues in a hybrid environment, which we will have to ensure that our leaders and people managers understand how are they going to manage a hybrid workforce. The second key trend was an interesting one that I was reading about is something called the birth of super teams. While super team is basically a group of people and intelligent machines working together to solve problems, gain insights, create value for the business. I think as Sejal also mentioned, they're putting bots on top of teams to just understand how things are moving, understand productivity. I think AI is going to continue to get integrated into the way we work. And the learning and development teams have to find a way that we start to help leaders and managers understand how we can integrate these super teams in a manner that allows for different kind of thinking, innovation, diversity, adaptability, by supporting through education, as well as the soft skills that I mentioned earlier, to allow for such teams to thrive, as against making people more nervous about, oh my God, this is too overwhelming. Moving from learning to the space of engagement and experience as well, leaders must adopt, I think, cross-functional work strategies. It's a powerful tool that allows several teams and departments to remain aligned and work towards a collective goal while promoting transparency and diversity. I think in our remote work environment, those day-to-day conversations, those water cooler conversations, the sutta breaks, all of those have kind of vanished from our daily routines, right? So how do you ensure that people continue to learn and understand the big picture, have those conversations with people outside of their own functions or outside of the meetings that they need to be part of? Cross-functional collaboration, to my mind, can be an interesting lever to pull when it comes to employee engagement, because it will continue to help you generate more ideas, drive collaboration, as well as promote diversity of thoughts. Another key trend around engagement is, it actually came into prominence with the pandemic, but will continue to be extremely important, is the employee well-being. I think my friends have also spoken earlier, incorporating well-being into the design of workplace, workforce, as well as my day-to-day life as an employee, has to be integrated into everything, all policies, all practices. And we cannot overlook the stress, workplace stress, that also kind of leads to physical health consequences, etc. So I think just the idea of organizations to take something personal, translate it to something that has a broader impact from a well-being standpoint for the employee, by just following a more humane approach, is going to be important. Linked to engagement is also the broader employee experiences that organizations offer, right? So while technology will continue to play a critical role in this experience, aspects like internal social networking is going to be important as well. As I mentioned, those day-to-day connections, that small interaction that you may have had in person, some of those things have gone away. And even in a hybrid environment, you may not necessarily get a continuous feel of the way we're used to living in the past. So how are you going to make your workers feel included? And hence, concepts like recharge days, concepts like, allows you downtime to do things outside of just your meetings and work schedule, is going to be a critical requirement with these extended periods of work from home, or even when the hybrid work model kind of comes into play. Yeah. And lastly, I think I'm going to touch a little bit in the space of R&R. Experiential rewards and recognition will have to kind of replace the conventional benefits. The thoughtful and timely rewards for employees in the right way at the right time can genuinely help the motivation of people. And these are things that could impact well-being, productivity, and loyalty as well. So with the change in these trends, the workforce profiles, the work profiles, the jobs that people are doing, preferences, priorities in professions, etc., is all going through a major shift. And the focus is moving towards experiential rewards related to, for example, wellness, in future travel. I mean, I think mostly people are now, from various surveys that I've kind of read through as well as conducted for our own organization, people are looking more at experiences as against material gifts or rewards. So, looking at various ways in which employees give you that feedback, I think it can be an interesting lever for us to utilize for better engagement and connection with the people. All in all, I think that's really what I had to share. But to just summarize all of this, I think there's a lot of change and reset that's in front of us this year. And to be able to share my views as well as hear all the speakers speak, it just helps us shape the new normal and the new way that HR is going to evolve and impact people, workforce, and organizations. On that note, I will conclude this and hand it back to Isha. Thank you once again for listening to me and for giving the opportunity for sharing my thoughts.
Thank you so very much, Mukta, for sharing with us what the new norm is. And like you very rightly said, that it's about creating that perfect balance. Thank you so very much for joining us and for sharing with us how you and the organization are looking towards it in an all positive light. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as our next spotlight speaker, I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Pruthvi Nanjappa, Vice President, Human Resources, MetricStream.
Thank you, Isha. It is quite interesting how the other speakers have covered most of what the collective thought of HR has been. What I'll try and do is share some of the last 10-month experiences that has been shaping our life at MetricStream. It has practically driven us hard in terms of what our employee value proposition is going to be. I'll give you some examples of what we have been doing. I did hear Mukta say that experiences become more important than money or any kind of monetary reward that you offer. One of the things that we tried to do is give a VR-based tour of Europe and America to some of our employees. Different divisions decided that they are going to give a VR-based tour to their employees. It just did not just cover the employees. The whole family actually was sitting in their living room, and they had these VR equipment sent to them. And there was somebody in Europe, somebody in America who was acting as a guide, and that person actually walked them through the streets and showed them things around. That came in as a big surprise to our employees and their families, and we got a big thumbs up on that. This was about creating an experience for family in a very distributed environment. We were not perfect, but we went through this, and the results are very encouraging. The other thing that we did was primarily to look at how do our leadership connect with the next level, right? So Christmas time, we got our CTO and his wife to actually run a cooking experience for 22 of our executives spread across the world. What did that entail? Entail, right? Primarily, our CTO and his wife decided that they're going to cook tiramisu, and they're going to teach everybody, all the executives, how to do so. It was beamed over video, and a step-by-step instruction was provided. And by the way, the materials, right? Some 8 different ingredients were shipped to the houses of all the executives in different parts of the world. Everything landed, everybody cooked together, and at the end of the day, right, at the end of about an hour's experience that we went through, all the families were also engaged. They were all having a great tiramisu by the end of that 1 hour. There are multiple other things that we have been looking at. Digital engagement has become very important. Wellness related programs that we run. Now, this is not only looking at employees, but looking at his immediate environment as well. Most of the engagements that we are doing is kept in mind, is keeping in mind the environment in which the employee is operating. And so it's not the employee, it's actually the employee's family also that we are trying to engage. A few other things that's coming up from a recruiting point of view, right, is really we are trying to outsource most of our recruiting to organizations and platforms which can take away the drudgery, right? Even during pandemic, we continued to hire, and we used to get thousands of profiles. Now, how do we get these profiles reviewed and shortlisted, and how do we get to the top 10 candidates that our employees and managers and hiring managers can look at? We completely outsource this to new age firms which are doing this. They're using AI primarily to shortlist candidates. They are having a video-based platform where they're reviewing candidates, and everything is actually audited, and there's an audit trail, and we can look at what exactly they do. What happened was nowadays, for every hire, our hiring managers are only looking at 10 candidates. Instead of hundreds of candidates that they would review in the past, they're only looking at 10 candidates. There has been a collapsing of process and time, and the quality has moved up, and also drastically reduced for us. Another thing that is coming up as a trend is really, I think a couple of other speakers mentioned the gig workers, right? There are so many of these gig workers who are looking up the job posts on LinkedIn and on our external website. They are writing to our recruiters saying that, look, you know what, I have this skill and I have this many hours to spare. I could potentially do this for you. Now, we are a product company. We are very, very particular about IP and, of course, the quality and safety of our customer data. All of these are important. But these are opportunities that are coming our way because it takes me about 100 days to onboard an experienced resource. But I have at least for every requirement that's out there, I have at least 4 or 5 individuals who are saying, I can start tomorrow. So the speed at which things can work is changing, and it is unimaginable. You know, we had never thought of something like this could ever happen. The other thing that is happening is really the price point, right? There is, when you buy a car, you always talk about cost of ownership. And that is true when you are actually acquiring talent for the company. There is a acquiring talent and retention and engagement, a whole lot of paraphernalia that you build around that. Now that I think will get questioned over a period of time with only the core set of people and some absolutely needed individuals being in the system, but most of it getting outsourced, and we do it collectively across the globe. These are some of the trends I believe is going to shape our future. All our policies have to be looked at. Most of our traditional policies will be of no relevance going forward. We will have to revisit all our policies. We'll have to create an extremely hybrid and mobile environment because it just worked. The last 10 months has been wonderful. We thought we could never operate this way, but there's no drop in productivity. In fact, all the reports that I have that we have been presenting to the board shows very clearly that our productivity has only gone up. We have less number of workforce, a lot getting achieved, irrespective of where they are. I do agree with Mukta about how do we look at space. We probably will have to be much more creative in looking at space. I do believe that at the end of the day, the boundaryless enterprise is something that we may just be able to achieve if we sustain this and if we have some faith in this. HR is going to be challenged like never before because this is not what our schools have ever taught, and the past experiences of our seniors in the industry is not a match anymore. Okay, I think we are in for a wonderful time, and there are going to be disruptions everywhere. We just have to prepare. We just have to learn from each other, and new books are going to be written. Thank you for having me. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you so very much, sir. It was indeed a pleasure knowing that the entire team at MetricStream has been much more productive, even though they've been working from home. So remote working is really working for all of you all, and that is what is an absolute delight when it comes to these very, very challenging times. It's how you and your entire teams are holding hands and working together. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all our spotlight speakers for sharing what their organizations are going through. Thank you so very much.